mustard
If somebody
seed.
doesn't have any anesthetic and they have a huge block of ice, like I would think that might be your
Yeah, or they offer you a
Please
discount.
rise to the
for
pledge of
plastic.
allegiance.
That's scary.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would anyone like to offer an invocation at this time?
Wonderful.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening thanking you for this day that you've given us and the rain that we've had, Father, that we need so bad. And Father, we just come to you that we're all concerned, Father, about our country and also about Dixon. We are so concerned about Dixon that we just need your help to give us knowledge and the attitude that we have to change our attitudes and all and help one another to bring this city back to where it becomes. We know, Father, that you are the one and only one that can do anything to help us in any way. And we just pray that you will be with us, that we can all work together and be together and everything and have a great city again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much. And now we'll turn the time over to your mustard seed.
I have some follow-on paperwork if you all would like to.
Thank you.
Okay. I would like to thank the council and the mayor and the residents of Dixon for allowing me this opportunity. Just to give a little background information, my name is LaShonda Connor. I am a resident of Dixon, more so on the outskirts, but I am a resident of Dixon. I live off of Highway Y. I have come up with a 501 nonprofit organization, a Mustard Seed. It first grew out of the desire to be a foster parent, and it grew more from that. So I realized that in order for us all to do better, we can't do it on our own. There's a proverb that says if you want to go fast, you go it alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And I feel like that's a big thing. And I feel like that's something where Dixon already has that sense of community. It's just more of a bigger push to, get everyone on board to do that. So I appreciate the opportunity. I have some pamphlets, or just an outline of some of the things we're going through. The pamphlets that you guys have before you, and I have some available if any of you would like to look at them right now, are the pamphlets that I basically give out to potential donors. My intent is to, on there you'll see some of the goals of a mustard seed. A lot of it is, again, it's community oriented. I wanted to be able to help be an impact for positive change in this community and other communities as much as I'm allowed to. And I would greatly welcome the opportunity to be able to work with the city of Dixon in doing so. So you'll see I have a slide deck. I kind of condensed it a little bit, but the first thing I want you guys to all realize is the mission of a mustard seed is to provide equitable, sustainable, and relevant resourcing that aid in the elevation of the quality of life in communities. With this, we must first acknowledge that, some people have bootstraps and some people don't. So this is something to give those people the opportunity. If they had bootstraps, they pick themselves up the bootstraps. We want to help provide that. And we want it to be sustainable. We don't want anything to be fleeting. And it's just something with the intention of it, something that continues to grow and progresses from one community to another. So basically at the grassroots level. Some of the problems that are worth solving, you'll see there's poverty, food insecurity, economic stagnation or lack of employment, the opioid epidemic and foster care crisis, and the non-development of community enrichment. And I'll go a little bit more into that and what I mean by that. So some of the solutions that we're looking at that I would love to partner with the city of Dixon on is developing a community commercial kitchen, a community recreation center, a clothing distribution annex, and somewhere where you have small business market satellite locales. So personnel people who want to be entrepreneurs, if they want to be business owners, they get the opportunity. A lot of times when we think of businesses, we think of the big picture. We always think of the finish. And sometimes when people think of that, it gets overwhelming, and they don't realize that, one step at a time, you can get to where you need to. So I want to be able to help provide platforms for that. And to stimulate and support community culture. As I've been able to go through the city of Dixon and meeting with several residents and different organizations, I found that Dixon is very rich in history. And I feel like that history, like all histories, it's important for us to hear those stories. And I feel like with Dixon, that's even more so. I've learned about the railroad and the fact that Dixon was here before Waynesville and St. Robert, which, sometimes you talk to other people, they may say differently. So, I found that very interesting. There's a lot of rich history, and I would love to see that reflected. There is a culture in Dixon, but it just needs to be brought out. So I really would like, again, to be able to be a part of that and learn more about it, because it's been very interesting as I meet with other people. So with this, the target markets we're looking at potential or future small business owners, families, seniors, youth, and resourcing agencies. Again, this is an intention of basically growing Dixon's own talent. It's great, I figure that once we get things going with Dixon on the Dixon level, as far as residents doing better and having small businesses and things like that, that will attract bigger businesses, and that's great. But again, you will not have to rely on that. A lot of things I look at is more of being able to set an environment for a varied economy, varied revenue. So if somebody wants to have a small business, that's great. If someone wants to help support a small business by working there, that's great. If they want to work for a bigger organization, that's great. But if those groups are already in there, if for some reason, businesses come and go, while you, Toys R Us, for example, that's something that I grew up with. I remember looking at the catalogs and stuff, and now it's gone. But so if you have something like that where a city or a town depended on something like that, even if that comes and goes, they still will have that fortification, that strength, those roots, and being able to support themselves. So again, a lot of things I look at is for sustainability, be it for a combination of interdependence, dependence, and independence in general. So some of the things I look at, I put competitive landscape, and it's not necessarily competitors or maybe factors that I feel that Dixon has to come across and deal with. So neighboring commerce, there are great places here in Dixon. I know about the home plate. I've been told that it's great. One of my coworkers, he raves about it. But again, it's in Dixon, and unfortunately people don't know about it. And a lot of times people think about going to St. Robert, Waynesville, Rolla, or whatever, and there's plenty of lovely places here. And I feel like Dixon has an advantage because property taxes are lower, and the rental, the potential for renting out structures is more stable. They don't have to worry about having their rent, they're doing very well. They're getting to a point where they can kind of put away money and put more into the community and into their organization, and then all of a sudden rent goes up. So I think those are things that that would attract potential businesses, both inside Dixon and outside of Dixon. Static narrative. The reason why I put static narrative is I feel like as I talk to everyone, I feel like Dixon is in the middle of re-imaging, and it's important. It's important that that happens. People are lost in thinking certain things about Dixon, and it's not a reality. It's no longer reality, and I think that's hurtful. So I see this now as an opportunity to be able to cultivate that positive change. You know, Dixon can become the author, the residents can become the author of their story instead of having somebody else tell it. Because I know from my experience, before coming to Dixon, before moving to Dixon, when I lived in Waynesville and stuff, coming here and in processing over at Fort Leonard Wood, I never got the narrative I got from Dixon wasn't from residents of Dixon. It was from other people.
And it probably wasn't very good.
It wasn't, and I will admit that I was very hesitant, you know,
Right.
coming around here. But
Understandably so.
yeah, and as I talk to everyone, and like I said, it's been a joy. Everyone has a story. There are some very colorful people in Dixon. So, you know, I mean, and really it's been a joy. Like, there's people who want to share. Everyone has a story. Everyone has something they want to share. And I would just love to see those opportunities given. So, you know, on one hand, yes, there's a bit of a static narrative, an outdated image. But I feel that, you know, if it's done right, we can turn that around. Imaging can be turned around, and you be allowed to show this is the true face of Dixon. This is what we're showing you. We're not perfect, but each day we're trying. And I think that would be not only beneficial to other people, but the residents as well. Because there's a lot of things here where people should be proud of, and it's important that they should be able to start seeing that. Employment migration. That's the biggest thing, and again, I feel like there's not enough businesses in Dixon. There's not enough employment in Dixon. And I feel like, and I've seen it, is evidence of what is called brain drain. All your potential, all the young people, all that potential that can help make Dixon better, you know, and continue on, you know, the traditions of making Dixon a hometown place. They're seeking elsewhere, and it's no fault of their own. You know, you have to eat, you have to be able to provide for your family. There's things you want to do. So if that's not happening, you have to seek elsewhere. But I also feel that, again, Dixon has the opportunity and has the ability to grow a diverse workforce, provide diverse job options in doing so. And nutritional outreach. I just put on there, basically there are a lot of small organizations that are doing great things, but I also found that I feel like there's a lot of organizations that are trying to reinvent the wheel. So I would like to be able to, one, support that, and in any of the gaps that there are, provide some type of overlap. And as I go a bit into the community kitchen and stuff, you guys will understand what I mean more about that. And no material culture. Like I said, as I walked through and spoke to people from Dixon, I've learned about so much history about Dixon, varied histories. And also what I noticed is, as I drove through, I saw a lot of young people who had nothing to do. And from what I consider a small town is very different than Dixon, but I grew up in a small town, and I remember when I was in middle school, like the hangout was the Quick Stop. So there was a Quick Stop and there was a Joe's rental video right next door. And that's where we went to. And I realized as driving by, walking through the neighborhoods, that they don't even have that. And obviously idle hands, you know, they're going to be quick to trouble. So I would like to be able to help develop some things. I have some ideas that I would love to be able to work with you guys on if you're interested in. The next thing is funding. Before I go further into what I mean about some of these projects, funding, I'm not asking for any funding. Okay. A lot of these projects are going to be fundraising. I love the idea of fundraising because with fundraising, my intention is to not only be able to bring things into the organization to be able to feed back into the community, but you know, there's no reason why members of the community can't also benefit. So there's some different fundraising ideas that I would like to do, because I see a lot of times we think of small fundraisers, and that's great, every little penny counts. But you know, there's also vast opportunities for more medium, large-scale fundraisers. Like you all have cow days, which I've been learning more about that. So I'm telling you, I'm learning some things. but I've been learning more about that. And again, that's another opportunity. And there's no reason. Dixon's not just cow days. You know, there's so much more to it. So I think there's a great opportunity to be able to formulate some revenue there, not just for funding things in the community, but also for the members of the community itself. And grants. So there's 2 grants that I'm looking into, because a lot of these projects will probably work into Dixon. And a grant is, and they're both community facility grants. One is from the USDA office, okay, in Missouri. And that pretty much, that would allow, because it goes by percentage, I've been told that it'd be 35% of the budget for Dixon, because it's going off the Dixon School District. So with that, more than likely, I would like to look at that for property acquisition and equipment. And then marry that with another community facility grant that is coming from the Department of Economics. And that would cover all of the remainder of the cost of the project. And like I said, a lot of these projects I'm thinking of in series. So obviously, when I go more into these projects, what I'm looking at is, I'm not looking for like the community kitchen. It's not just sole purpose of community kitchen. It's going to have multiple purposes. And it's going to have multiple ways where it can be self-sustaining, so it can help fund and go into these other projects, these other stages. So I just want to make that aware. You know, I know people have great ideas, and people always have great ideas when they're spending other people's money. So I just want to make sure that you all are aware of that. If my husband would just give me a little bit more money, I could do so much. So I just want to make sure that's clear. Then looking at sales channels, if we continue do this, go into this agreement, the sales channels, the things that I'm looking into are partnerships with key organizations locally and also out of the area, and have more of a centralized onset location. One, that'll be easier for people to find us. It's rural. A lot of times, because we're in a rural location, it seems like communication is the biggest issue, and sometimes that's the biggest threat to, a community success. Again, like I said, there's a lot of great things that are going on. There was some music at the park. I didn't know anything about that. And again, I think a lot of it is because of communication. So if you provide a centralized location where people can go, or several different substations people can go, it'll make it a lot easier. And then again, I have a mustardseedcommunity.com. I plan to launch that going into this weekend. It's going to be a combination of website, Facebook, and I also have a YouTube channel. And with that YouTube channel, not only do I want people to be able to see what they're investing in, because that's an investment. A donation is an investment. So I want to, I already spoke with the Dixon Caring Center. I want to do kind of an interview with them and sit down so people can kind of see, one, these are things that are going on in Dixon and people are doing to help their community. And also to kind of highlight some of the needs. Because, there's many ways to help. Somebody may want to help with volunteering. I know sometimes there's an issue with logistics, and there are several people, if you're able to go into your community and go out, you'd be amazed with the talents and the resources that other people have. And pop-up informational booths, so for example with Cow Days, being able to, again, that's an opportunity to say, this is what we're doing, and giving an opportunity for others to see, this is what we're doing, kind of give a status report on all of that. Marketing activities, I want to look at a mixture of kind of a more diverse thing of marketing. So with media, obviously local and regional. So the local news channels, things like that. Social media, Facebook, YouTube, and that's great, but I feel like sometimes when we get new things, we forget about the old things, and that stuff just works just as well. Again, especially when it comes to, we're having issues with communication. If people don't have access to internet, or it's not a reliable internet source, we need to be able to reach them in different ways. So again, a mustardseedcommunity.com, that on there, print media and radio media, online search engine, and email. And then if you have to, go real old school and do snail mail, send out some mailers. And I've definitely learned the value of face-to-face. And like I said, I've gotten more out of it getting face-to-faces, so if I go do face-to-face, it might be more for me than anybody else, because I'm telling you, there's some colorful people in Dixon. I love it. Okay. Some stories. I'm like, okay. I didn't know that Dixon had a nightclub once upon a time, and that just like floors me. All right. Revenue streams. Again, I'm not asking for funding, but also I feel that with these projects, this is going to attract people. We have to have a reason for people to come into Dixon. We want to develop more foot traffic. I feel like as we establish these things, like I said, culture, resources, so museums, libraries, even if it's something as far as a craft shop, because there's a lot of handy people here. I've seen some lovely quilts that I know you take them to New York, you're gonna make some money, and then some, so there's talented people. There's very talented people here, and there is a culture here, and I would love to see that reflected in the community. Again, and I feel like things like that, that's going to draw people, and with that, that's going to draw more opportunities. So, I mean, I wrote a lovely paragraph, but basically that's what I'm talking about is, being able to provide other reasons for people to come here. And with that, other things will come. With that Field of Dreams, if you build it, it'll come. So, major costs, again, I'm not asking for money. If anything, what I will do is I will promise you I will ask for support. So, for example, the permanent economics grant, what that would require is for you all to basically, if this is agreed upon, that you would say, okay, we'll sponsor her, or sponsor a Mustard Seed, this organization. And again, there's a series of steps as far as, bringing it out more to the public and making sure that everyone is fine with it. And basically storage. I need storage. I have opportunity to have things brought in. I just need storage for that equipment and stuff. So then that way, things can be used. And that's it. I want to talk about some of the partnerships that are some of the things I have and that's going down the pipeline, and about the community kitchen, because I feel like that would be the best project to start with. I spoke with the Dixon Caring Center. I'm in the middle of developing a memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreement, where basically we have families, fostering families, or you have families who are like, like you do your taxes and it's saying you're making this much money and you're like, where's this? They're kind of like in that in-between. There's definitely a need. The struggle is there, but unfortunately, normally they wouldn't be able to be eligible for those programs. I'm in the process of dealing with Children's Division, Family Advocacy on Post. Those agencies will act as referring agencies. So families, if there's a need, they go to these agencies. The agencies have already vetted them. They're saying, okay, yes, there is a need. It's legitimate. They come in with the proper paperwork. They go over to Dixon Caring Center, and they will help them. They will be allowed to go to the food pantry. And I also talk to them about the possibility of, obviously, as you have more people coming in, there's going to be growth for them also, because as demand grows, that's also you're going to have to increase the supply. So I already spoke to them about that. I'm looking into being able to have volunteer business owners who are truck drivers, who own their own trucks, who are more than willing to be able to, if they have to go to Good Samaritan to go pick up supplies, go do that. I'm also working with a Network for Good, and they help out with several other organizations. But basically my intent is to get clothing, brand new clothing, toys, things like that, where families will be able to come in. Again, qualifying families with, coming from those referring agencies, they will be able to get the items they need. You know, it's great, it's lovely that people want to outpour and give their items, but it's also great to be able to, there's nothing like having something that's your own, that you've never, you know, that no one's touched before.
It's new.
Yeah, it's new, you know, so it'd be something where it'd be fall, winter, spring, you know, and then in case of emergency, if there's flooding or things like that, they're able to do that. And then for Christmas, you know, I think every child, you know, should be able to have the opportunity, again, to get something that's new, that they value. So those are things that I'm currently working on with Dixon Caring Center. And they've already they have no problem with being able to, again, as those supplies come in, to be able to store that. And we're going to sit down and talk more about, you know, logistical things. I want to make sure that everyone's their intent. I would like to believe everyone has good intentions. And I want to make sure that those intentions are, you know, they remain good. So I don't want any type of temptation. I don't put anything past anybody. I wouldn't even put anything past myself. So there's definitely protocols and things that will be put in place for that. And also things with you know, anti-theft or loss prevention. So that's one thing I'm looking into. Also, I would like to be able to, with the community kitchen, that's the biggest thing. With that community kitchen, that's an opportunity for small business owners. If someone is a baker, you love making artisanal bread, you want to sell it under, you know, the cottage laws, you're able to do that, but obviously you need more space so you can keep up with the demand. So you can be able to, for a small price, what I'm looking at is, or small rental fee, what I'm looking at is having a resident fee and non-resident fee. So again, because this is something for Dixon, and then eventually, as it gets more established, do away with the resident fee, and it's just coming in from, you know, non-residents who want to rent out the kitchen to be able to use that. So they'll be able to do that, be able to have some type of bazaar where they're, you know, where baked goods people can come in for baked goods. They can sell their items. Again, they are able to be self-sustaining. They are able to make money. And also looking at that's a place where you can give nutritional classes. There, again, I referred to the opioid crisis. And unfortunately, that is, the foster care system is very strained, and that has just made it worse. I'm not saying every child that comes into foster care is a direct result of an opioid incident, but it has increased. And I like to believe that a lot of parents, they want to be good parents. And I also feel like if we're saying that you have to do this and this and this to be able to have a healthy reunification with your children, you should be able to provide that. So looking at things like you can have couponing classes, parenting classes, nutrition classes, because some people just need help. If somebody's a chef and they want to be able to, again, provide an opportunity, again, they rent out the area and they have several people come in, they can give a class and be able to do that. Also, when we think about school breaks, like these long, everyone thinks about summer, and I understand that that's because it's a significantly long break in the school year. But when we think about where are these children getting food on weekends? Where are these children getting food on, you know, spring break, winter break, school closures, with the weather? How are they getting food? And I love the idea of the backpack program. That's great. But honestly, when we think about it, a lot of it is processed food. Yes. Because it's cheaper and it's longevity, you know, so I understand that. And a lot of it is just for that child. So if we're able to, with that community kitchen, be able to, again, partnering with Dixon Caring Center, the food there, being able to make real meals for children there and their family, because a lot of them, it's not just the children. You know, they have siblings, there's parents there. If we're able to do that, you know, that's a place where they can get food. Or we can set up satellites where they can be able to get food in event of flooding or whatever. So we can make sure that they are well taken care of. They're getting the nutritional needs that they require. Exactly. And I just feel like something like that, that extends into health. So I feel like a lot of that has far-reaching, very far-reaching potential for some good. So like I said, with each project, I think that it's not just, okay, if I say community kitchen, it's not, there's more than meets the eye, there's more to it, there's gonna be multiple uses for it. For example, with the playground, I know that the park right now I haven't had the opportunity to meet with the police marshal. I'm kind of excited because I've seen examples of community policing, and I think that's great. Oh, sorry. I will see you. I love the idea of community policing. I'm active duty. I'm in the military. I've been military police. So 18 years. I'm coming up on getting ready to retire. And I feel like community policing is a great tool. And I know there's attempts that are being made, strides that are being made to make Dixon better. And I know, unfortunately, that the park has also been kind of a breeding ground or a meeting ground for crime. And, you know, there's an opportunity, again, to be able to take that back. I would love to work with the Lions Club. I know, for potential, for, you know, fixing up the park more, adding new playground equipment. I looked into a private grant from a company called Kaboom, and they have several different granting opportunities where they bring in equipment. The program that I'm looking at is it's a community thing where they would bring someone here to be kind of like a site or project manager, and the community would be able to come in, members of the community, and also if registering with post for their ACS, the Army Community Center, getting volunteers there, actually being able to put that equipment together. I feel like if we invest in sweat equity in there, people tend to take better care of it. So those are different things that I'm looking into, and I would love to be able to work with Dixon again. But I'm sorry.
No,
I feel like sometimes I just gotta
this
fill
is
the
great.
space. But
I can feel your excitement.
well, I hope that's a good thing.
Yes, I can feel your excitement.
Yeah.
And what I love about it, it isn't just like you said, just a food kitchen. There is so much more that goes beyond that, and
Yeah.
that's really exciting to hear as far as self-sustainability for individuals and provided help for those that aren't, well, let's just call them for what they are, for poverty and indigence.
And that's the thing.
And so it's an opportunity to rise above. I love the fact that you talk about children and meals, like, for example, in the summer, when you know, what meals are they having, you know, is it a bag of ramen, something not nutritional? You know, to know that there is a food kitchen that would serve a balanced meal, maybe a piece of fresh fruit or fresh vegetables, milk with a meal. I mean, that goes a long way for a child, and anyone knows with development of a child, nutrient plays a big factor into proper development of a child.
Yeah, and I noticed looking at, like I said, each time I dig into, you know, looking more and more into Dixon and stuff, I realized, one, again, that's why I say it goes back to changing the narrative. Because unfortunately, when I, you know, pull up into search engines, I'm looking for stuff, I see a few good stories. And if I hadn't taken the opportunity to come down to Dixon, to talk to the residents and stuff, I would be caught into the negativity. I would have no choice of it. So I feel like that's a big difference. And with Dixon, we're 20% of our population lives below the poverty line. You know, and that's we beat out Missouri, the state of Missouri. We beat out the national, you know, stats for that, and to be such a small community, you know, that's a shame. But again, I feel like that can change. Looking at the population, the vast population of Dixon are children and seniors, and I would love to be able to do more, and I would love to be able to see that connection with the seniors, with with the children. Because just because they're older doesn't mean they have so much to pass on. You know, and I see great, and again, like I said, this all started from foster care, but I mean, I found out as I've looked, you know, there's opportunities where you can have fostering grandparents, you know, and we all, if you think about your own grandparents, you think about the silly, dorky stuff they do, you know, maybe at the time we didn't appreciate it, but my goodness, those kids would appreciate it, the opportunity to be like, oh, grandpa's a dorky, you know, we're going fishing.
He's wearing socks with the sand.
Yeah.
That's true, but those are valued and
Yeah, but those
treasured
are valued
memories
things,
as you
yeah.
go.
Because I think of my granddad, and again, it's funny you said the socks, because it's things that just span, you know.
It's
I
an
just
art
remember
thing.
my granddad with his house shoes on, church socks on all the way up, and I'm like, Granddad, what are you doing? When he went out, like, he was dressed to the nines, but when he was at home, I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't
Ms.
know.
Connor, I applaud you. I think this is a great endeavor. And I just want to ask, what do you need from the city to go
So,
forward?
like, so what I would need from the city, I spoke with some of the grant committee. My intent is, I would love, if I have the opportunity, I would love to set up a booth during Cal Days. One, because I need to be able to first, you know, make sure that the community knows, like, this is something that we're looking into going into. Because I already spoke with the USDA point of contact, Mr. Jack Kirby. So I don't care if it's $1, 50 cents, if I can get them to donate, and I can provide a donor list. And again, like I said, storage. And I already talked to the Dixon Caring Center about the storage of being able to store some of the equipment. Obviously, as we get more tied into it, I may probably need, you know, a larger unit. But that would be able to get started the USDA portion for the grant. And then as we get further into it, into the acquisition and stuff, and I can be able to get a full projection of how much the project is going to cost, then again, it would go into with the economic development sponsoring, you all, City of Dixon sponsoring mustard seed. And then, and again, holding a public forum, which I welcome greatly. And then that would be, there are just certain steps that are needed to be able to do those grants. And just the opportunity to be able to work with other organizations and stuff to be able to do some things.
I, for one, think that this would be a great opportunity for this. Now, we will go on break here in just a minute. We'll put you in contact with the Chamber of Commerce, and they'll talk to you about they'll talk to you about the booth.
How did you come about finding this?
She found us. She found us.
That's right.
Okay, I love this idea. This is my dream right here.
Yeah,
This
she's
has been my dream for
Sorry,
years.
she's with us.
active
You stay away.
duty military on Fort Leonard
I said,
Wood.
sorry, she's with us. Stay away.
So she found
No,
us,
actually,
yeah.
you're, I
So
told you I wanted to talk to you
This
about.
was the,
how do we go about changing the negativity that you
So-
hear on the outside? Because you talked about, because I know we do have some characters here, I love it. You are wonderful. Some of the stories, I mean, you can't repeat some of them either, but some of them are. But, you know, I feel like somehow if we can get this history, now I knew that, for one, that Dixon, we've been here a long time. This was the main place where they brought the cattle in and shipped them out. Like Highway 28 was the old service road that they came in on. You know, but I did not know that we were here before everybody else was. But it's not. But it makes sense because we were the hub of the railroad.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and then with these stories, like we're talking to people and stuff, how do we get that stuff out there?
Honestly, what I feel, and this is just my opinion, again, we have to draw them in it. I'm from New York. I live in upstate New York. Like some of my friends their family are dairy farmers. One of my friends, their family owned a deer farm, you know, onion farmers. But, you know, they were able to bring people in to say, we're going to tell our story. So I personally think that it's going to involve getting the local media involved. Every time, like the music in the park, you know, KY3, other places, and a lot of times people don't realize that they want those stories. They want to be able to have the news
Yeah.
stories.
I was
and stuff.
gonna say they'll take them.
Yeah.
There's like they're looking for stories.
You know, so I think there's so many opportunities to change the narrative. Because like I said, before coming to Dixon, before going around into Dixon, I got, the story of Dixon that I got was not from Dixon residents, you know?
Right.
And I'll be honest about that. And I was very nervous, and again, I'm just speaking from my,
Right.
my own experiences, and I'm not trying by any means to be rude or anything. I feel like it's important and it needs to get out there. But I honestly felt like I was, every time, like when I, for example, I'll use when we were looking for a home, because we had decided, we've been here for 5 years, and we were looking for a home, we were looking for a long time. And we're looking for places, and I'll use our house for example. My husband showed me a picture of the house, and I was like, whatever. First of all, we couldn't even afford it. So I was like, whatever, that's not gonna happen. And then later on, it got lowered, and our realtor was like, oh, well, there's this nice home, and showed me a picture of it, and I was like, oh, I love this place, it's great. You know, okay, let's go in, because clearly, I'm like, if God has given me a blessing, I'm going to take it, I'm going to take it. So we go, looking at the place, I'm in love with the place, I see the potential for so many different things, and the realtor is like, but I have to tell you it's in Dixon, and things have been rezoned.
Yeah, we're aware of that.
Yeah, so, and that was, and my concern at first was like, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what am I gonna do? And my husband and I were like, you know what, we're gonna take the home, because the home is size enough for, again, foster, we plan to foster to adopt. We love the idea of having a large family, so we're like, okay, you know, we'll figure out something. If we gotta work part-time until the kids go to private school or whatever, you know, we'll do that. Because up until that time, I've always heard, you know, I've heard stories from other friends of mine who, you know, they lived on the outskirts of Dixon. And they felt like they had to move because they felt very uncomfortable. It was clear that they weren't welcome. And again, a lot of people were saying, you know, don't go to Dixon. You know, if you're a person of color, don't go to
Right.
Dixon. But as I came here and I talked to people, one, I realized, like, you know, I'm not saying that it's like not, like it's super far in the past, but when I realized there wasn't, like the most relevant events, our most recent events, were so far out,
Right.
you know, and
Yeah.
again, talking to
Lake
people
last
and
year.
stuff, you know, it's totally different. So I really feel like if we use those opportunities to, I mean, people have no problem, honestly, you look on the internet and stuff, people have no problem telling the story of Dixon,
Right.
you know, so we might as well use those opportunities to tell, you know,
Yeah.
tell the story of Dixon. And just be like, you know what, we have an imperfect history, just like every place in the
Everywhere.
United
Yeah,
States.
exactly. Yeah.
We have an imperfect history. We're not perfect, but we're striving to be perfect. We're
Right.
striving to be better. And
Right.
this is what we're doing. I think those are the biggest things, because that's one of the things I think that hurts Dixon is, you know, going into real estate. You go into these housing booms and stuff, and, you know, you have the military posts, you know, there are people who want to live. You know, when I get off of work, my husband and I, we get off of work, I don't want to feel like I'm at work. So I love the idea of being able to go a little
Get
bit
away.
further out.
Yeah.
But, you know, you find those options are limited as you get, you know, as you start hearing about other things and you start looking. And, you know, I like to think that, you know, people like to do their research, but I know people don't. I mean, I just found myself in a position where with my job and stuff, we constantly, you know, having to research. I'm having to find out things about soldiers and stuff. So that wasn't a thing that was abnormal to me. So I always know every time I move, I pull up something. I want to look at the school district. I want to look at this and this and this. And some things I'm like, oh, those are fixable problems. But if I feel like, you know, again, like I have, my son's 2 years old, my daughter's 6. So I don't feel like, I don't know if it's something where I want my children to go to a school district if I feel like, you know, if there's a history, if there's a reputation of racial intolerance, I'm not going to send my children to a school and they're that young, you know, because, you know, at that stage of life, you're trying to develop their self-esteem and things like that. So I wouldn't want to send them somewhere in a potential environment for that. you know, and again, like I said, I'm speaking for myself, and I also found that, you know, again, doing research, coming in to do face-to-face, the value of face-to-face. You know, I've learned those things, and I just think, you know, every opportunity, and I know the mayor probably doesn't like this, but I think you should be like, you are the face of Dixon, like, you know, so, you know, interviews or whatever, hey, we're having cow days, like, I don't know.
Hey,
what
this
you guys
space
have
will eat
for
a
us.
lot of watermelon.
Those are some nice pictures.
He's going down there.
Yeah.
They're out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Can we get a round of applause for Ms. Connor?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for helping us trying to change Dixon. We appreciate it.
Very much.
With that being said, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Thank you so much.
Thank you.